This week, we read Parashat Noach. The story is familiar to us. The flood, the ark, the animals, Noah and his family. Let's consider the scene at the end of the flood. Although the rain lasted only 40 days, Noah and his family needed to wait until the land had dried sufficiently before they would leave the ark. And so altogether, the Torah text tells us that they were on the ark for just over a year. That, my friends, is a very, very long quarantine. Once the flood waters have receded, Noah needs to assess whether it is safe to step out onto the dry land, whether the earth is dry enough and stable. He tests the outside environment by sending out first the raven and then the dove. It is the dove that Noah sends out multiple times. At the first attempt, the dove returns immediately. V'lo matzah hayona manoach lechaf ragla. The dove could not find a resting place for its foot. Vatashav elav el hateva, and it returned to him, to the ark. So Noah brings the dove back inside, waits 7 days, and sends out the bird once again from the ark. This time, the dove spends the day outside and returns toward evening with the leaf of an olive tree in its beak. It will be another 7 days before Noah sends the Yonah out once again. This time, it stays away, and Noach knows that it's time to leave the ark. The leaf of an olive tree. Is it possible that the dove found an olive tree that had survived the flood, regrown, and was now blooming again anew? It's possible. But the Midrash offers a different perspective. It says that the olive leaf actually came from a place where the flood waters had not reached. It says that the land of Israel remained untouched by the flood, and that this olive leaf came from none other than Har Hazetim, the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. In this way, the beginning of the rebirth of the world, the hope of a bright tomorrow, was rooted in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel. An even more fantastical Midrash says that the olive leaf came from none other than the Garden of Eden, that the gates to Gan Eden, so to speak, had been left open, and that the dove had somehow made its way inside and retrieved the olive leaf. With either interpretation, the message is that even in the midst of destruction and suffering, there is a place, a space, a glimmer of hope that remains untouched and pristine. That the floodwaters cannot destroy the site of God's presence, the Garden of Eden, or the foundation of the Jewish people, the land of Israel. Perhaps, for each of us, this is the Tzelem Elokim, the spark of the divine inside of us, that regardless of the floodwaters swirling in the world around us, remains strong and clear and even growing. This olive branch, of course, represents peace and hope for a bright future. I'll close by returning us to that first attempt of the Yonah when the dove does not find a place to rest its feet. This moment serves as the basis for one of our traditional Shabbat Zmirot, the Shabbat table melodies. The verse says, V'lo matzah Yonah manoach, the Yonah, the dove, could not find rest. And yet on Shabbat, we sing, Yonah matzavo manoach. It flips the verse, saying that the Yonah did find rest. Of course, the manoach, the rest, is not only a literal place to land one's feet, which the bird was seeking. Manoach evokes minucha, the restfulness of Shabbat. Just as the Yonah finally did rest its feet, we sing and we pray that so will all those who are weary, yegiei choach. All who feel they are wandering or restless, all will find a place to be, a place to feel the manoach, the restfulness, the peace of Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to my perch in the sanctuary of Congregation Shar HaShamayim. As the weather has changed since the last one of these videos I made, and the backyard is not really so hospitable anymore, unfortunately. But Shabbat is still with us, and Shabbat songs are still ready to be sung. And this week, I've chosen a particular one that is connected in a perfect way to our Torah portion, that of the story of Noah. As we know, Noah was able to ascertain that the floodwaters had receded sufficiently for him and his family to step out onto dry land by sending out some birds from the ark, the last one being the dove. And as tradition has it, the dove, on the seventh day of flying around and trying to find a perch, found one on the seventh day. So the Zohar chooses to interpret that as the dove found its perch on Shabbat. And therefore, Yehuda Halevi, the most famous of Jewish poets, picked up on this idea in writing his beautiful Shabbat Zemer, Yom Shabbaton Ein Lishkoach, do not forget the Sabbath day. So I'm going to sing this for you 3 different ways. The first one is the sort of yeshivish tune that I grew up with hearing around my table. Yom Shabbaton ein lishkoach, zichro kereach hanichoach, Yona matzavo manoach, v'sham yanuchu yigiechoach, Yona matzavo manoach, ayayay, v'sham yanuchu yigiechoach, ayayay, Yona matzavo manoach, ayayay, v'sham yanuchu yigiechoach. And that melody, of course, carries out through the rest of the verses. The next one is also a familiar North American tune. I'm not sure the origins, but again, this was a regular favorite around my Shabbat family table. Yom Shabbaton ein lishkoach, zichro kereach hanichoach, Yona matzavo manoach, v'sham yanuchu yegiechoach, Yona matzavo manoach, v'sham yanuchu yegiechoach. But by far the most beautiful tune that I know for this Zemer came from the Shabbat lunch table of my teacher, Cantor Naftali Hirschtick, and his family in Jerusalem. It's a 3-part tune, and it benefits really from having a family worth of people around the table harmonizing with me. So you'll have to imagine that in your head as I sing this for you. Yom Shabbaton ein lishkoach, zichro kereach hanichoach, Yona matzavo manoach, v'sham yanuchu yegiechoach. Hayom nichbad livnei emunim, zehirim leshomro avot uvanim, chakuk bishnei luchot avanim, merovonim ve'amitzkoach, Yona matzavo manoach, v'sham yanuchu yegiechoach. ובאו כולם בעברית יחד, נעשה ונשמע אמרו כאחד. ופתחו וענו השם אחד, ברוך הנותן ליעף כוח, יונה מצא בו מנוח, ושם ינוחו יגיחוך. Shabbat Shalom.